A cottage industry existed whereby the larger langur monkeys, held on leashes by human handlers, would be used to frighten away the smaller, troublesome rhesus monkeys. This being now illegal, as of last August, India's Housing and Urban Development Minister, Venkaiah Naidu, has hired 40 professional human monkey impersonators to provide the same service. The utility of this remains to be seen, but early indications are not promising. Indeed, the situation globally seems to be deteriorating, at least from a human perspective. When last I visited Calcutta, I was accosted on 3 separate occasions by wild gangs of Sundarban monkeys, once on the Lake Town Temple grounds under the very eyes of the statue of Hanuman. My wallet and cigar were purloined, my hat as well. I was shrieked at and exposed to very rude genital and posterior displays. Now reports have come in from Florida that many of the wild rhesus monkeys resident there, and which in India are often rabid, have tested positive for the herpes B virus. Well, I cannot say that I'm surprised. And while youth, high spirits, and the lack of a strong moral upbringing may account for some of this behavior, there is no excuse for actions such as the 2007 murder of Delhi Deputy Mayor S.S. Bajwa, who fell from his terrace while under assault by a gang of rhesus macaques. Those of normal sensibility will condemn such a crime, and will of course deplore the current situation in our southern states, as do I. However, I would like to suggest that the invasion of these simians on our shores is as nothing compared to their increasing invasion of our epistemological discourse, and that the latter will be far more transformative in the long term. To illustrate my meaning, let me quote a passage by Mr. Charles Malhotra of Ontario, writing in the comments section of the Times of India website. What I saw was nuts beyond belief. Assam, Arunchal, and bonnet macaques, as well as gray and golden langurs, flat-faced Hulak gibbons, and at least one slender loris, had driven out every resident of this suburban Tripura neighborhood. I don't need to tell you that these are not species known for their fraternization, but it looked like they put their differences aside in the interest of furthering communal anarchy. They'd broken into the hotel bar and gotten drunk on Mani Ni Chuak and imitation scotch, then trashed the place. Every mirror and bottle was broken. The carpet was soaked with booze and shit and piss, and littered with the bodies of overdosed monkeys. In a corner, a Nilgiri langur, an endangered species, was eating cigarettes and vomiting them back up. When they saw me, they shouted and waved their arms, but a little half-heartedly, I thought. I will skip down a few paragraphs. But the small Nagara temple was even crazier. First, the conical Shikara dome of the building had somehow been broken through, and rainwater had swamped the interior. Inside, empty plastic shopping bags floated in the water, tangling in the defiled carcasses of several unfortunate goats. Maybe these had been sacrifices brought into the temple by worshippers, but I believe they had been kidnapped and brought to the temple by the monkeys themselves. The black granite image of Tritiya Mahata was missing all but 3 of its 18 hands, and the sandstone bas-reliefs depicting scenes from the Mahabharata had been scoured into unintelligibility by 1,000 angry fingernails. Holy texts and cheap newspapers were pulped together underfoot in polypus blobs. I know it sounds Philistine, but I couldn't help feeling a thrill seeing these beautiful works of art and poetry and religion, reverently preserved for centuries, blasted jubilantly to garbage by a mob of motherfucking monkeys. Mr. Malhotra's ultimate point, a brave one, is that there is probably quite enough art in the world already, a position I find credible. We are all of us familiar with the title canard that an infinite number of monkeys typing eternally and an equal number of typewriters will produce a copy of the works of Shakespeare. But what is elided in this image is the near infinite amount of utter nonsense that will also pour from these monkey flavors. And this nonsense, I would argue, is of greater value. Could we not all use more monkey nonsense in the world? I wonder. Yesterday, my professional obligations took me first to the public library, then to a neo-primitivist exhibition at the MoMA, and an indifferent performance of Tosca at the Met. And just today, before my appearance here, I read 6 tedious circumlocutory articles and a prospectus and sample chapter from a proposed MIT Press volume concerning the semiotics of railroads. This, in addition to numerous blogs and discussion fora pertinent to my area of academic interest. My intellectual stamina is legendary, but even I sometimes find it all too much. What is the use of all this art and knowledge? Might my weekend have been less wearying if monkeys had replaced the author of Counter-Hegemonic Procedures, Reframing Rhetoric in Slavoj Žižek's Hegel and the Infinite at the keyboard? Or beaten Baron Scarpia into the floorboards before he could mangle Ha Piu Forte Sapore? Every moment of our lives now requires complex hermeneutical understanding, from parsing Candy Crush error messages to deciphering cocktail menus. But the gleeful despoilers of Delhi, and now of Chattanooga, do not pause to wonder about the Wi-Fi password. They do not detect the shallow references to Hamlet and Sons of Anarchy, and they do not ever shout Benghazi. They are not curious Georges. They are not helper monkeys. They are ourselves, stripped of self-awareness and heedless of past and future. They are in many ways much to be admired, and dare I say, imitated. Specifically, I suggest that all police and National Guard be withdrawn at once from industrial, commercial, public, and mixed-use zones south of the Mason-Dixon line. And while every effort be made to preserve the life and health of American citizens, no resources be expended for any other monkey-related purpose. No doubt this proposal will meet with resistance from some, but I believe that when the American people see the benefits of living in a cultureless, intellectually undemanding, and expectation-free wasteland, they will be quick to adopt this policy elsewhere in the nation, perhaps importing or breeding monkeys especially for this purpose. Certainly, this will be a difficult transition for early adopters in places like Richmond and Atlanta, but let us not forget that General Sherman made it happen once before, and we were all better off because of it. I humbly submit that these recommendations be adopted by the relevant municipal authorities. Now, if my travel liaison Penny would finally consent to disperse my per diem, I will be on my way. Good night.